Hola a todos, un gusto verlos nuevamente. A nombre del Comité de Asfalto queremos agradecerles su presencia hoy y estamos en el segundo capítulo de la serie que dominamos Asfalto360, donde hoy estaremos en una pequeña entrevista que realizamos al Dr. Adam Ham de la Universidad de Nevada en Reno. Dr. Ham será uno de los principales oradores del próximo congreso. Y hoy en día tendremos una entrevista en inglés, donde veremos algunos avances, una pequeña introducción de cómo será la participación de Dr. Han en el Congreso. Dr. Han, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you here. Your professional journey is especially valuable for our audience. You moved from academia at Purdue University to leading quality management at Granite Construction, one of the largest contractors in the US, and later returned to academia at the University of Nevada, Reno. What motivated you to build that bridge between industry and academia?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to start with. Again, it's truly an honor for me to get to participate in the Congress, and I'm really looking forward to being there and hopefully sharing some information that's informative for the folks. What motivated me to do the round trip is there were all kinds of things going on in my life. It was a wonderful and interesting round trip. I really struggled making the decision when I left the university and went to Purdue, but I felt like it was really a once in a lifetime opportunity for a young academic. And again, I had a great experience there. Got to work with some really good folks, as well as develop a relationship with the folks at the Heritage Foundation, which is still ongoing today. And again, I had a great experience in the Midwest. But I had a young family, had four children, and quite honestly, my wife wanted to get back home. So I had this long-term relationship with Granite Construction because while at the university we built West Track and Granite built that project and we did a lot of work with Granite over the years. And so I picked up the phone and called a friend and at Granite and said, I've got to come home. Can you find me a job? It was really that simple, to getting from Indiana to back to Reno. And again, it was a fantastic career at Granite. I loved what I was doing. I learned a tremendous amount. It was a great experience. And my father had some health issues. I lived in Reno, but I was headquartered in California and I was gone all the time. And so the opportunity to come back to UNR, which was where I went to school, came up. So I took advantage of that opportunity and maintained a relationship with Granite along the way. And it's been a great, as you said, ride, if you will, for the last it's going on 30 years now. So
quite amazing. From your field experience, what practical lessons did you learn that are difficult to capture in textbooks or academia?
That's a great question. Great question. College is a great place to for engineers to learn fundamentals and science and processes and problem solving and all that. But application in the real world is really different. And at the time, it was an interesting time for me because the transition to basically performance-based specifications or that direction, getting away from method specs and going to PWL and SEN specifications was ongoing. This was a very weird time. There were not a lot of engineers working at construction companies at that point in time. So I entered the industry at a kind of a unique opportunity, if you will. And it was actually, I learned a tremendous amount, right? I learned a tremendous amount. And what I really, sort of walked away with from that was that you have to, when you go into a new situation, you have to understand what people's challenges are and help them resolve those issues or get through whatever, milestones they're trying to achieve and help them. And that's really what I learned. I learned that, having an education was important, but it didn't mean anything to the people that I was going to work with. And I needed to figure out how to work with them and help them be successful. And it worked, when you do that, it worked great for both parties.
Oh, that's interesting. We should keep that information for ourselves too. So thank you for your insight.
Sure.
So regarding some key achievements from yours, you have been involved in landmark projects for pavement engineering, such as the well-known FHWA West Track project. Could you briefly share what that project represented for the asphalt pavement industry and how it influenced your technical perspective on asphalt mixture design, construction practices, and long-term field performance?
Yeah, so West Track was a full-scale pavement test facility built about 60 miles southeast of Reno, and it was trafficked with autonomous vehicles. That's think about it, 30 years ago, triple trailers running around a track out in the desert. That was quite an accomplishment. It didn't have anything to do with mixtures, right? But that was quite an achievement associated with West Track that I would be wrong not to acknowledge the folks at NATC that got that done. As far as asphalt mixtures goes, Super Pave had just come out, right? Super Pave was new, and there were a lot of perceptions about Super Pave, and really the driver behind it was rutting issues. And what we learned at West Track that was significant was a couple of other things specific to mixes, is that one, coarse graded mixes don't necessarily perform better than fine graded mixes. That was one of the sort of the things that was sort of a popular idea at the time. Fine graded mixes at West Track far outperformed the coarse graded mixes. So that was a good thing to learn, right? That both can work. The other thing is a coarse graded mix that was built with stone from a quarry had the worst performance. So that mix was replicated, the gradation was replicated with material from an alluvial deposit. And it actually outperformed the material that was from a quarry. And that was another positive learning experience, in that with both materials, you can be successful. Now, obviously the alluvial material had to be, crushed, right? Everything was scalped on what would be a 25 millimeter sieve. So nothing, smaller than that went into crushers. But it demonstrated that both could work. Another observation there was that some of the aggregate properties that we thought were very important may not have been as important. Things like crushed faces and fine aggregate angularity. I think they're important to have in the specifications, but my perceptions about them changed a little bit through that West Track experience, and what we saw with those different combinations of gradations and alluvial and quarried materials. One other thing that came out of West Track was the trucks were autonomous, and there was a tremendous amount of information collected associated with the trucking that went to use on, to help us understand the influence of roughness on fuel consumption. It helped tire manufacturers. It helped lubricant manufacturers. Most people don't realize that all those other research efforts were going on the side that contributed to society as a whole. So, so I think it was a great project, and I was really fortunate to get to be there when it was going on.
Perfect. A summary of the project. So the presentation at the Chilean Asphalt Congress is titled "Paving the Way practical strategies for better asphalt mixture construction. From your point of view, why does the asphalt industry need today more than ever a practical and technically sound approach to mixture construction?
Well, I think, today we have resources that we didn't have in the past, and we have materials that we didn't have in the past. And I think that I really think that our future is going to be very different than the past, because we have the ability to understand how those different materials impact the performance of mixers. With the advent of BMD, we're going down the path to BMD. And when we add polymer modified asphalts or crumb rubber modified asphalts, or we use wrap, or we use recycling agents when we use wrap, all those tools that we have on our toolbox, with BMD test, we can understand the influence of them. Where with our conventional mix design methods, we don't pick those up. So I think, again, it's a great opportunity for our industry.
What do you see as the main global challenge that you will address in your presentation regarding your topics?
So the main challenge, one of the challenges I think is that, anytime when we make a change, there's always challenges, and with BMD, we're making such a large change. It's not just, we want to change the volumetric spec or something. It is a significant change. So understanding what it's going to take to use it successfully and get it implemented is really important. And we're fortunate to be working with the Federal Highway Administration on a cooperative agreement, and a significant part of that work revolves around BMD and implementation, and working with agencies to get that done. And it's no different than when we went from method specs to incentive. I'll call it incentive specs, or quality assurance specifications with incentives. It was a big change for the industry, and this one's even bigger. The path is, I think the path is a fabulous path, and it's going to really help our industry and all of us as taxpayers in the long run.
You talk about balanced mix design, BMD, and this has been a central theme of your research. And this approach is gaining a significant momentum in North America. Could you explain in simple terms why BMD is increasingly being adopted as a complement or alternative to traditional volumetric methods?
I think I hit on that a little bit in the last question, but so maybe I got ahead of myself a little bit there. But yeah, I think the real key is that again, it's going to allow us to do things and use materials confidently to make sure that we're going to get the performance that we expect. And we just didn't have the ability to do that with volumetrics. And there are lots of products out there, and they're not all created equally, right? Not all polymers are the same, and not all polymer modified asphalts are the same. And some recycling agents are more effective than others, and it gives us maybe more of a microscopic or a more detailed understanding than we've had in the past with the mixed design tools that we've had.
Thank you for the answer. Sustainability, WMA, and RAP. We are talking about innovation for us. And you have been also widely recognized from your work in these technologies. How these technologies connect with the good construction practices you will promote in your presentation?
That's a great question. I'm a huge advocate of warm mix asphalt, and I'm not biased towards whether it's water or a chemical package. They both work. It's interesting, in the US, there's an annual survey of production, and warm mix is included in that. And in the most recent survey, about 40% of the mix produced in the country was warm mix. Not all of it is produced at low, or there's sort of categories that get used about with warm mix about in terms of how low the temperature is when the mix is produced. Not all of them not all of that got produced at the lowest temperature category. But there are benefits to warm mix in addition to temperature reduction. Obviously with temperature reduction, right, we reduce fuel consumption and emissions. That's a positive thing, right? The more we reduce them, the more benefits we reap. But there are also benefits in terms of compactability of the mixes, which is really important, and in my opinion, gives us more time to get compaction typically, right? And not only does it give us more time, but when we have that time, especially in the warmer time of the year, it's not quite as important. But early and late in the season, depending on when you're transitioning from the warm time of the year to the cool time of the year, or from the cool time of the year to the hot time of the year, again, it's a great resource. And also, it can really help with haul distances.
Yes.
With tarp trucks. It's so it creates those benefits, as well as if you go out on a job and the mix is really hot and you can see all the steam coming off of it, and you've got somebody standing on a paver, and they're they're taking all that in, or they're the loop man behind the paver, then everybody's got to deal with that. So it's safer also. It's also a safer alternative. So it's really it's a great tool, even when it's not used at extremely low temperatures. It's still a good tool at some reduced temperatures, in my opinion.
In addition to BMD, how these technologies or approaches can make the industry advance toward more sustainable pavement, while still preventing the quality of the mixture, durability, and long-term performance of these mixtures?
Yeah. So in my opinion, we are going to improve the quality of the mixtures, and the performance is going to be better. And we have a lot of resources today, again, that we didn't have 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And part of what I think part of our challenge is just getting them implemented, because there's so much happening so fast. So how do we get them implemented in a methodical way, so that so that they're successful, and to see a technology come along that is a good technology and it not get implemented because of a process that tried to go too fast, or led to a problem that could have been overcome, is disappointing, right? So I think really our challenge isn't all the good resources we have. It's how do we get them implemented successfully in a timely fashion. And
Yes.
Sometimes change is slow in our industry, although it's getting better. It's getting better all the time.
Yes. So the next question is coming from Jorge González. He is the chief of the National Road Laboratory.
Adam, saludos. Usted ha trabajado extensamente en especificaciones basadas en desempeño. ¿Cuál es el principal obstáculo que encuentra una agencia como lo es el Ministerio de Obras Públicas de Chile al migrar de una especificación basada en métodos a una especificación basada en desempeño?
Thank you, Jorge, for the question. That is a great question, and I think that the biggest challenge is in the transfer of responsibilities from the agency to the contractor, and vice versa, and that's really a change management challenge in my mind. And we saw that when in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, with the transition to incentive specifications in the U.S. And rather than the agency doing a mixed design and coming to the plant and telling the operator how to set the plant up and run and what asphalt content to run and when to make bin changes and all that responsibility changed. There was a shift in those things, right? And that is again a change management thing. It's both parties have to figure out how to make those transitions so that both are comfortable with it. Part of it is people just don't like change, right? I'm guilty of it, and I would guess that I'm probably not the only one that's guilty of not liking change. But with the responsibility changes, it's really important that everybody understands what changes are taking place and sort of what their place is in those changes, how that impacts them, and what their responsibilities are going to be moving forward. So that everybody understands, because there can be a fair amount of confusion that takes place also. And then with confusion, there's question, right? People get upset and it makes them uncomfortable. So really doing a good job of communicating what's going to happen and everybody's role in it and how everybody can succeed, right, in the process, as long as that's clearly communicated and everybody works together. That would be my thoughts.
Dr. Han, your career includes extensive practical experience in the field. You were actively involved in developing new pavement manual for the FAA and NAPA. Could you share a specific, maybe a success story with us? Perhaps from an airport project or a high traffic highway, where the application of these practical strategies had a measurable impact on pavement service life, construction quality, or long-term performance?
That is a great question. And long-term performance is some projects I've worked on have been around a long time. But probably one of the most interesting experiences I had was on an airfield project that was successful was convincing the administrator. So in the U.S., the Federal Aviation Administration is the entity that builds airfields, right, or contracts to build airfields. And between the FAA and the contractor, they have what they call administrators. And so as a contractor, you don't actually directly interact with the FAA. You work through the administrator that's hired by the engineering firm that's hired by the FAA. And so to get change is particularly challenging because you have to instead of get through one gate, you have to get through two gates, or one door, you have to get through two doors. But we had been using a sharp person on a paving crew came up with what today we call pizza cutters for cutting longitudinal joints, trimming longitudinal joints. FAA requires that all joints are sawed back, right? And this person who's in Utah came up with this idea of putting a cutter on a roller, and we convinced the administrator to allow us to use that on an airfield, Anchorage International Airfield, actually, which is a huge airfield. And if you think about it, international transport of goods, it's a huge, it's a 747 capital of the world. Okay, that's what we call it. And we were able to convince them to allow us to use the joint cutter, and we got really good joints. We got good compaction, and I saw it about probably 5 or 6 years after that, and the joints were still in good shape, and it made me feel good. I was glad that happened, and today it's pretty common in highway work, and it's becoming more common in airfield work as well. So And again, I know that it's leading to better performance. We measure the density with the cut joint, and it's always better. So than what we were getting in the past. So our Achilles heel of our pavements is our joints. So that's something we can always work on.
Thank you for your story, because there will be attendance for our FAA agency. We call it DAP, Department of Asphalt Pavement. So they will attend the Congress too. So it's a good story to tell them.
Good.
So as former Vice President of Quality Management at Granite Constructions, you saw quality control from the contractor perspective. Based on that experience, what are the key elements that make a quality plan more than just a contractual requirement and turning it into a practical tool that adds real value, supports consistent construction practices, and helps prevent failures in the field?
That is a great question. Adding value is the key, right? That is truly the key. You're to your point. Adding value is really, really important. And in order to do that, what I learned is you really need to understand the requirements that the agency you're working for has put before you that you have to fulfill, right? You have to be well-resourced in order to fulfill those requirements. And that may mean that you have to have people that have different skill sets than they've had in the past, right? So you may need to add people, or you may need to add training, for example. Again, the process, it's change, right? It's a change process, right? So you have to manage that change and help everybody understand what's in it for them. And I think for contractors, the good thing that's in it for them is that there's typically an opportunity to make some more money, right? More successful you are, the more efficient you are, the more successful you are, that you have the ability to make some more money. And in the same token, the agency gets a better product. So I really, it's a win-win, right? It's a win-win, but both parties, again, have to understand what it's going to take and make sure that they participate so that each can be successful. And we went from method specs to, again, incentive specifications, and the responsibility for a lot changed. And again, it was a game changer. It was especially for the contractors, because at that point in time, there was at an asphalt plant, there might be the oiler, right? The oiler on the asphalt plant might run a gradation every day, maybe, and God forbid that they run an extracted asphalt content once a week, and it so their whole world changed, but again, it's the key to success. I think that the key to success is just understanding what it's going to take, and then resourcing appropriately to get it done, and then communicating so that everybody understands what, again, and it doesn't matter if you're the agency or the contractor, everybody understands what the change is and how they can benefit from it.
So finally, Dr. Hannah, based on your extensive experience with state-of-the-art pavement engineering, what advice will you give to a young, or maybe a not so young, Chilean engineer who is designing or building pavements today?
So what's my advice? My advice is it's actually really pretty simple. Part of it is embracing, right? Embracing change and innovation. Don't be afraid of risk, right? Risk is what we all have fear, but we have to take risk on to succeed, right? And if we don't, right? We are not going to impact change and get better. So I guess as my closing remark, I would also like to thank you for the opportunity to participate. The program looks fantastic, and I look forward to learning from being a participant in the Congress. Again, reviewing the lineup, it looks like a fabulous Congress. Hopefully I can leave you all with some nuggets from here, and I look forward to taking some nuggets home with me from what I learned in the Congress.
Thank you very much, Dr. Han, for sharing your time, experience, and technical insight with us. For sure, your presentation at the Chilean Asphalt Congress will certainly be a valuable opportunity for our industry. To close, what are you most looking forward to during your visit to Chile, in particular in terms of exchanging ideas with professionals and practitioners from the asphalt pavement community?
Yes, I'm very excited about the opportunity to learn. You know, it's every time you go someplace else, right? I don't know. I'm always curious and want to learn from folks, and I'm certain that I'm gonna learn a lot while I'm there, and I'm excited to hear about what you all are doing, because I'm certain that there are things that you all are doing that we're not doing here that I'll be able to bring home as a nugget that I can share. And you know, we're on this path to BMD, and there's some bumps in the road. So I look forward to, again, bringing home some nuggets that I can share with here that can help us in that process based on what you all are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Han. Excelente entrevista con Dr. Han. Fue muy bueno ver sus puntos de vista y experiencia respecto a lo que nos mostrará en el próximo Congreso del Comité de Asfalto. Bueno, los invitamos a seguir las redes sociales y las comunicaciones que serán respecto al Congreso, que se puedan inscribir para asistir al Congreso. Habrá un enlace donde ustedes podrán buscar más información, y los esperamos con hartas ganas para compartir con ustedes en esto que amamos, que es el asfalto, en el próximo Congreso del Comité de Asfalto en noviembre. Así que los esperamos a inscribirse.